It has been forever since I've uploaded, and I apologize, but it has been super hectic these past couple weeks with horse shows, work, school, and everything in between. But I wanted to get this uploaded for you guys because it has been requested a lot lately, and it's just something that I wanted to share in case anything from my experience can help any of you guys. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dive right in. This is a hoof care routine / my story of Elliott's hooves and how we got to where we are now. So I remember when Elliott came to us as a 2-year-old, he had pretty solid feet, and I'm pretty sure he was barefoot at the time. Now he is an appendix, and I like to say that the only thoroughbred thing he got was the thoroughbred feet. And the farrier that we used at the time, I started to realize just how short Elliott's feet were getting, and they were just super short and super, the angle was just, I don't know, I can't even describe it. I'll try to find a picture and put it here. But the angle of the hooves was, it was like dished in the front, and he was just standing on his toes, which were very short, and I could tell that he was just in a lot of pain. And I could also tell that he was absolutely terrified of this farrier. So, and that's never something that I want to subject my horse to, so we switched farriers, and the guy that we're using now is absolutely fantastic. And so what I think we first did was we put the steel shoes on him, and the steel shoes are basically your basic shoe, and they are heavier than aluminum shoes, which I prefer aluminum shoes just for the hunter under saddle stuff because the aluminum shoes are lighter, so it makes it easier for them to pick up their leg and just kind of, they don't have as much knee action in that front leg. But the first thing we did was put the steel shoes on him just because we needed him to keep his shoes on so he could grow some hoof back, because he, like I said, his toes were super short and he had no hoof. And so that's what we did. And I think the first appointment we put clips on him, which the clips are those, the front part of the shoe that comes up around the horse's hoof that kind of helps them keep their shoe on. Because of Elliott's stride and the fact that he is a basket case in turnout, he just goes nuts and runs around and pulls all his shoes off and has a grand old time. We really needed to keep those shoes on him. And so we had those for a while, and he did really good with keeping the shoes on and all that jazz. And during all this, I was desperately trying to find some sort of bell boot that worked. And I had the Davis ones for a while, the ones that have the 2 straps of Velcro across the front, and he destroyed those within a week. And those are like 20 bucks a pair, and I just couldn't afford that. So I tried the Centaur brand, I tried another brand, I pretty much tried everything that Dover has to offer, and then I also ordered a couple offline. I think I ended up, what I did was I put the Professional's Choice no turns underneath a set of the rubber pull-ons, that's what I'm looking for. So I put the pull-on on, and then I would put the no turn on, and then I would put the rubber bell boot back on top of the no turn so that I would hopefully keep it from turning. And that worked for a little while, but it was just getting crazy. And eventually we did put the aluminum shoes on him. He got to a point where he grew enough hoof that we could try them, and he moved really nicely in them, and he just didn't keep them on. At some point we had all 4 shoes on him, and that was just because of his work schedule. He was wearing down his back feet too much that he needed shoes on them. And that's why originally I was like, no way Jose to going barefoot. But then one day I was perusing through Dover like I always do, and I saw these Cavallo Trek boots, and I read that you're not supposed to turn them out in them, and I was like, well, I don't follow the rules ever. So the next time my farrier was out, I was like, well, look, what if we just took all his shoes off so that way he can't pull them off if they're not there? And we put these Cavallo Trek boots on, because I had bought one of the Cavallo Trek boots for when he lost his shoe, just kind of as a spare tire. And it was working really well. So what we did was, he was like, you know what, I mean, let's try it, why not? And he said he would come right back out if it didn't work. So we pulled all his shoes off, and we put the Cavallo Trek boots on, and I actually didn't use them when I was riding. That's just because they were too heavy and they got in the way, and he just didn't like them. But that was for arena work, and I think they would work really well for like trail rides and stuff. But anyways, we turned him out in them, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I didn't really have another option, and I didn't really want to blow $200 on the boots that you can turn them out in just to try it. So we did that, and they actually held up really, really well. and they actually, I don't remember how long I've had them, but I know it's been 6 weeks since we took his shoes off, so it's been around there. And they've held up until now, and they're starting to rip, but I'm really surprised at how well they've been doing, and his hoof is growing, and I'm so excited. I've gotten to the point where I feel comfortable enough to turn out Elliott without the boots. His feet have gotten to the point where they're strong enough and they can walk on rocks and everything like that. And the Caballo boots I just use at shows and stuff to walk him across rocks and stuff like that and across the pavement. So yeah, that's that, and I'll go ahead and move you on down to the barn and show you my full hoof routine. Alright, here we've got everything that I use on his feetsies. First we got the, I don't know if I can pronounce this, Fibings hoof dressing, some regular iodine that I get from Target, and you'll also need a paintbrush or something to apply it with, and then a bottle to mix the farrier barrier in, which I just dilute it in some water, and of course a hoof pick, which I prefer the ones with the brush on the end, and it's covered in poultice, I apologize. And then most importantly, you need a Elliott, who's standing like an idiot on the cross ties. I almost forgot to mention that I also give him Farrier's formula in his evening grain, which has proven to work very, very well, and I highly recommend this stuff. Alright, so before you start applying anything, you want to make sure that the hoof is nice and cleaned out, and this is where the brush side of the hoof pick comes in handy. So you don't want to have any sort of dirt or anything in there. And keep in mind that Elliott is freshly barefoot, so his feet are not going to look the greatest. So before you make any rude comment, keep that in mind. The first thing you're going to use is the iodine. So I just keep it in the bottle. And then you're going to take your little paintbrush, dip it on in there. And then where you're going to want to use it is right on the outside of the hoof. Easy. I just got my paintbrush all gross, but that's okay. I'm going to paint it all on the outside. And basically what this iodine does is it toughens up the sole of the hoof. And you can get, I forget what it's called, but you can basically get the horse version / more expensive version of this stuff, and it's literally just iodine colored purple. So that is what you want it to look like. So you're just going to cover the inside, or the, outside rim of the foot. Next up, we're going to take the farrier's barrier that I mixed in this basically mixing bottle of hoof oil, and I diluted it in water, so you want to make sure it's kind of nice and mixed up. And I don't usually fill up the whole thing. I'll do about this much of farrier barrier and this much of water, so because usually what happens is it becomes all water and no farrier barrier, so I like to refill it up. So it's this lovely green color. I don't know if you can see that, but basically what you want to do, make sure the hoof is all clean, and you never want to do any of this when the hoof is wet because there's absolutely no point. I don't know if you guys can hear the chickens running around, but I apologize. And you just put it all on here. Yeah, like I said, don't put any of this on while it's wet, or if it's about to be wet, like if you're about to turn them out and all that stuff is just going to come off in the grass, so there's really no point in putting it on. So I like to do this, what I'll do is I'll do this whole routine a little while before I turn them out so it has time to dry in the stall. And then I always use this hoof dressing right before I ride, so their feet can stay nice in the sand. I don't really use it for any other time, easy. But you basically do the exact same thing and just cover the hoof with it. And voila! These are the Caballo Trek boots that I was using, and as you can tell, they are very well loved. Let me see. Foxy, don't touch the camera! Stop! No, it's not to be eaten. Thank you very much. This is the one that is ripping on me, and I can't complain because I did use them improperly. Like I said, I've been turning him out in them. Stop touching the camera, I swear. But they have held up very, very well for a very long time. And basically what you do is you just slip the hoof in there, and they are very easy to put on. You put the hoof in there, and then you secure that Velcro, like push it up against their hoof, secure that side, secure this side, and then slip this Velcro through the little thingy-mabobber, and there you go. And I just use them now for little things like at shows and transport and stuff like that, and they do hold up very well, and I highly recommend them. Alright, so that is what I do for Elliott's hoof care routine. There's a chicken in the loft. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Chicken! There's a chicken in the loft. How did it get there? I'm so confused. Okay, well anyways, that was a little weird, but you know, back to the point. That is what I do for Lely's hoof care routine, and it has proven to work so far. So if any of you guys are having any crumbling footsie issues, I recommend trying some of this stuff out. And yeah, keep commenting and suggesting videos, and hopefully I will get some more out for you guys soon.